Intuition knows and is guiding and is always innately within us. And our intuition is so wise. This is how you know if it's fear versus intuition. Hello, welcome to the Roaming Collective podcast. I am your host, Trisha Tai. I am the founder of the Roaming Collective. I'm also a certified human design reader and intuitive. Today, I decided that I really wanted to talk about fear and how fear can really run the show for us, how to overcome fear, how to have more awareness around fear, and when there's a difference between fear versus intuition. I realized I was living in fear for a very long time. And I used to be so scared of the unknown because to me, the unknown felt like it was unpredictable, that there was a fear of not knowing what was coming next. And for me, I have always been a planner in my life, and I've always loved to just know the next step ahead. I always wanted to know, where am I going next? What is happening? And to me, that brought a lot of comfort. And I realized because I was gripping so much on outcomes, it was deterring me from having so many other opportunities of where I'm meant to be pushed and where things are meant to come in. And fear can tell you a very convincing story. It tells you that, to stay small, to stay hidden because you don't know what's on the other side. There's a lot of fear around money. You don't want to take a leap because you're fearful that you might lose money, that it might not come back. There's a lot of fear around what if I embarrass myself? What if something goes wrong? The list goes on. And I have had so many of those fears. If I listened to those fears, then I would have never started this business, and I never would have been able to help people and to have these gatherings and to also trust and follow my intuition and really being able to share a space for community. There's so much that comes out of that when you decide to just take that first step. Sometimes you might have to take little baby steps before you take the big leap, and it's something that will come with time. So as you start to listen to those fear moments, as you start to listen and to really recognize when that's coming in, the stronger that your muscle gets of listening to your true self. A couple tips that I have for when fear comes in. So for me, when I started my business, I had a lot of limiting beliefs. There were so many of I'm a failure. What if no one shows up to my gatherings? This idea is not really a good idea. And I realized that I was listening so much more to those stories than what I should have. And that wasn't my true authentic self. It was more of our protection coming in, because when there's a fear voice in there, which we all have one, it's usually just coming out of protection and love. Our body, our minds love us so much, and our nervous system is what really filters life through. So our nervous system is when you're in that fight or flight, or if you're in that parasympathetic where you're in that relax and digest. And when you get a little stuck in one of those states, right, it could be a little hard to be able to see when opportunities are coming in because you're gripping so hard to holding on because you're so scared to let go. And you're so scared to really be able to take that leap to really go into what is on the other side of that. Our nervous system really filters through external circumstances, right? So our nervous system is sort of this, it's like internal in us, but it's always filtering, it's always scanning for any threats, anything that our body needs to be aware of. It just is protecting us, right? And sometimes our nervous system can get a little bit in a stuck state of keep scanning for fear, keep looking for when fear might be coming in. And it can be really hard to see past that when our minds and everything is just so ingrained in that, and our minds are just so focused on scanning for fear. So here's a couple tips of what you can do. The first thing is awareness. So start to pay attention for when that little voice comes up, and you will know because it sounds in a very alarming, you need to figure this out now. And I know it's my fear voice when it's very chaotic. It goes back and forth. It's almost kind of debating in my mind of a lot of, do this, no, do that, go here, go there. And it's a lot of just like chitter chatter, where there's a lot of discourse around it. And again, this is all happening in my mind, right? I mean, there are times where you can be talking to someone and realizing that you're in a fear state. But it can be so loud sometimes. And the first key is when you start to notice that voice. So just having more awareness around what your voice looks like. That fear voice, is it more of like a fire alarm? Is it more what if focused of, oh my gosh, what if this happens and then that? And then it kind of catastrophizes into the next realm of like, oh, if you take this step, if you leave this job, then you're not going to have any money, and then you're going to have to move out of your apartment, and then you're not going to have a car, and yada, 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 right? So it's like also that sort of timeline where it's starting to look so far into the future. And that's the thing too. Fear is very past or future looking. It likes to really play a story of what is going to happen in the future, and versus what is going on in the past, where there's also that side too, where it's like retelling any stories, or it's pulling out examples from the past of saying, well, we've done this before and then look what happened. Or we've tried to say it, we tried to show up and then this happened. And it tells you to really pull back, right? To hold, to stay small. And especially, I mean, any human being, but especially women, we are very much taught to stay small, to stay in our bubble, to not be loud, to not rock the boat, to just agree, to not really be able to step out into that. And so over time, when you're overriding that within yourself, then you're really listening into that fear and you're listening to what other people are needing. Then you start to get further from that. And I have realized I was very much in the people-pleasing state, and I think so many women can relate to that, where I wasn't really taught how to honor myself and to really honor my self-choices and overriding what was a yes versus a no. It took quite a long time for me to do that, because when I was listening to that fear voice for a really long time, that is how I became so burnt out, because I knew for a couple years that I was not meant for corporate. But there was something in me that was still gripping and holding on, because the biggest thing was the fear. I was so scared. I was like so freaked out because, and this is just an example, and I'm not saying all of corporate America is bad. This is just an example in here. I remember feeling like I couldn't let it go because there was such a convincing story of, this is how you get benefits. This is how you succeed. You need to climb the ladder. You need to stay here because this is where you're safe and secure. And to me, I had outgrown that container, and I had outgrown it a long time ago, but I was staying in it. And there were times when I would be driving into work and I physically couldn't even get out of the car. Like, there were multiple times where I would just sit in my car and I had to force myself to get out of the car to go into work. Like, I would just be sitting in that car like, oh, this is the last thing I'm going to go do. I'm going to be drained. The moment I would go into an office, which I still enjoyed all the people in there. It's not a knock on any of that. I think it was more so just environment sense that wasn't the right environment for me. Anytime I would go into the office, my energy would be so drained. I would even be in there for a little bit, and I remember coming home completely just exhausted. Like, I would need to lay down. I couldn't do anything after work. And so it was also taxing on other parts of my life, right? Because then I felt like I didn't have the energy to go do things that I really loved, to spend time with friends, to go out to places. And it was just really all encompassing. And so that is just one example of when you're really listening to that fear, and that inner voice that you know is telling you, take this little step here, take that step there. I kept overriding it and overriding it and overriding it. And it's because I didn't know what was on the other side. It was so familiar to me. It was kind of like when your mind gets stuck. And I felt like my mind was very focused in this lens of doing what we've been conditioned, doing what we've been told. And even though my inner knowing knew that, my mind was still operating on that. And so it obviously started to take a toll on my body and everything. And I got to a point where I was like, okay, enough is enough. I need to start listening to my intuition, because my intuition knows and is guiding and is always innately within us. And our intuition is so wise. This is how you know if it's fear versus intuition. So our intuition is very much in the moment now. Or your intuition will tell you, go this way, go to this place, go talk to that person. Our intuition is very regal. And for me, so mine comes through almost in like a channel sense. So the way that looks is I usually get a little quiet. Like I try to like sit in the silence for a little bit, or just have like some meditative music. And it comes through almost like right down through me. And it's something that I'm not debating back and forth in my head. I'm not spiraling in my mind of, should I take this step? Should I not? And gosh, there's so much time wasted when you're just living in your head and you're debating on what to do back and forth. Like that in itself takes so much energy out of you. So much energy when you could be putting that towards momentum and things that you actually love and things that you're excited to go and do. Intuition is very regal, and you will know how your intuition comes to you. And the way that you strengthen that muscle is by doing it in little daily habits. So try not to ask your intuition big questions up front. Try not to ask it, what should I do with my career? Or where should I be living, right? Sometimes those are a little bit of a bigger open-ended question. And that might be a little bit taxing for your intuition to be sharing at that moment when, when it's like a big decision, right? So your mind and your body might not be fully used to hearing from that track yet. So do it in little bite-sized chunks. So throughout the day, start just listening into your intuition. So from the moment you wake up, try not to look at your phone. I have such a bad habit of this. I've really tried to keep my phone away from my bedside. And I try to wake up and I try to have the first few minutes to myself. So I try not to reach immediately for my phone or anything. So as soon as you get up, check in with your body and go, just have a conversation. You can do this out loud. You can do this in your mind. Say, hey body, what do you need right now in this first moment? And sometimes it can be something so simple. Your body might be like, okay, let's go have a drink of water. Let's immediately go shower. Let's sit here for a few minutes, or just like, let's rest. And so however it comes through for you, and again, there's a couple different types that you can have. So for me, I have all the clairs, but I think the strongest one for me is inner knowing and being able to sense. So those two are my biggest. So I just innately know things, and I can also sense things. I also will get clear audio, clear audience. So I'll get different messages through hearing. Sometimes the songs can be messages. Sometimes if I'm out walking, I can just get a little bit of a message in my head. Or there's also clairvoyance, which is being able to see. So you might have like the visualization. So you might, even when you wake up, you might be the type where you might need to visualize yourself getting a drink of water, and that is what your body is showing you, hey, this is what I'm needing. Everyone's intuition is so vastly different, but everyone has intuition. That's also a misconception. Every single person has intuition. If you are a human on this earth, you have intuition. And you were able to access it, and you were able to access it at any moment in the day. So that might hopefully bring a little bit of comfort, knowing that you always have this within you. You are always being guided, and you are always on the right path. Like there's never a moment where you might have a detour and you're like, I'm going down the wrong path. No matter what happens, you're always in the right time at the right place at exactly the right moment that you need it. There is never a time where you take a left and you really should have taken a right and then you're screwed, right? There's always something that's being guided for you and places that you were meant to go, because if you didn't take that, let's say, other detour that maybe you might not have, of course you might be experiencing a little bit of resistance along the way, but for some reason, maybe you needed that lesson, or maybe you needed to experience that. And so when you listen to your intuition, it just helps make those choices a little bit easier of knowing which path to take. So start really doing this daily. So just doing it first thing in the morning with those little moments. And then you could also do it throughout the day. It could be something so simple. It could even be, what do I want for breakfast? And then start to tune into your intuition and see what your intuition's wanting. See what you're naturally gravitating towards, and then honor it and do it. That is how you strengthen the muscle. Because if you listen to your intuition, then you don't do it, right? Then you're kind of like getting into a place of when you're not really listening to yourself. And then might also stress out your body too. So really being consistent with it and taking it step by step. So just tuning in every day and just, what do you want for lunch? What do you want for dinner? Do you want to go for a walk today? Do you want to work out? Just start doing these little daily habits you're already doing. And that is how you're able to strengthen it over time. And also, I love being able to meditate and to really sit down and to tap into this intuition. And that is another thing too. Sometimes life can just be so loud. There's so much outside noise. There's so many stories coming in, everyone's opinions. And think of this as a space where it's yours. This is for you. This is your time to really sit down and to be able to embrace that and to really be guided on your right path without all the noise outside. And sometimes that noise can get so loud and then it gets very confusing. And when you start listening to it, when you start letting that fear in, it can feel very much like, well, which one's true? Because I've let this story in, I've heard about this, I've heard about that. And then you're starting to feel like, whoa, like I just let too much in. And believe me, I am extremely used to that. I was doing that so often without even realizing. And even though I was always very innately intuitive, there were so many times that I was listening to other people's opinions. I mean, even I was always seeking out advice from others too for a while, and I had to reel that back in. And I remember I was coming to Austin for my trip when I was looking to move, and that morning I woke up with a sore throat and I went to urgent care that day, and then I was like trying to decide, should I go on this trip or should I not? And I think a little bit subconsciously I may have been putting a lot of pressure on coming because I was feeling, I knew that I was ready to move and I was feeling a bit of pressure because I had a feeling Austin was my place. Like of course, how my intuition knew, right? That's another example. When I was looking to move and I had a couple different cities in mind, and Austin honestly just came to me, and I was feeling just so drawn to Austin. It was something that I couldn't explain. I just felt it. I just knew. I was feeling so excited to come to Austin. I was feeling like I could see myself living there. And I had written a list of all the pros and cons of like a city that I really wanted to live in. And what was so crazy was Austin checked off every single one of those boxes. And I wrote it down without even realizing it or knowing where I was looking for. I was just like, I want these things out of a city. So my intuition was innately guiding me, right? And when I woke up, and it was about 2 days before I was about to leave for my trip, I was then getting so fearful and getting so stuck in my head. And I was putting so much pressure of, is this the right decision? Is it not? Should I go? Should I not? I'm not feeling good. Do I want to be there when I'm not feeling good? Should I wait until another time? Right? This is just examples of what's going on in my mind, which can be exhausting. Let me tell you, it is so exhausting to be going back and forth and doing all that, right? A big one for me was getting that reassurance seeking. So I remember I would call my parents, I would call my sister, and I'd be like, should I go? Should I not? And here's the thing. There is a time and a place to get that outside perspective. There's a time and a place to really talk with someone, to workshop it out, to really understand more. Sometimes like you might need to talk it out to see all the options in front of you. And you will know when you're doing it, when it might be getting into the territory of, oh, I'm avoiding, or I'm looking for someone else to make the answers for me. And when that happens, that's okay. I've done that so numerous times, I can't even count anymore. And what I started to do was to scale back from that. So instead of reaching for the phone or reaching for a place where I know it was distracting or is not necessarily going to be super helpful for me in that moment, or something that I knew I could figure out in the moment, that is when I took a pause and I would sit down. So you can do this in a multitude of ways. And if you decide to get a human design reading with me, we can also look into your decision style of how you decide best. And so there's a multitude of ways. A couple are you can talk it out if you need to go into your voice note, if you feel like you are very drawn to more so talking about things. Try putting it in a voice note for yourself. Try actually speaking it out and for you, and then listen to it back and then start to notice. See if you might be feeling a little bit more excited about one decision, or if you're feeling like, ooh, this decision isn't necessarily for me. Or you can also journal and you can start to write it down, and you could go back and then start to look back and realize, okay, here's everything that I wrote down. Let me see what feels true in my body and see, with all of this laid out, what I feel like I should follow. And another option you can do is to also just feel it in the moment. So you could even just not decide. That's another option. You can just be like, I can't decide this right now. I'm deciding that I am just going to wait and sit with it and see what comes to me. So that could be another option. And sometimes you might also need to ride an emotional wave. You might need, if you might be feeling very revved up and you're like, okay, I need to take a pause. Or you might be feeling a little bit more melancholy. You might be in a little bit of a low state. And you might be feeling, I'm just all over the place with my emotions. So then wait until that emotional wave goes through, and then see what was the most consistent option for you throughout that time. See what was the most consistent of what you felt. And there's a couple of those you can use at any time. And then over time, you'll be able to make these decisions a lot faster. So this is just an initial, at the beginning phase, as you're getting used to listening to your intuition, just being able to really see what resonates for you and see what these different type of tips will do. And so see what you resonate with. And then over time, you're going to strengthen that muscle where you'll be able to so innately listen to intuition that you won't even second guess yourself, and you won't even be back and forth in that sort of mental debate. So back to the story of when I was deciding what to do for Austin. So remember, I was calling all my family, and then I ended up just deciding to rest. And then the next day I felt better and I was ready to go. So in that moment though, even though I went and did all those calls, which I didn't really necessarily need to do, I could have figured it out on my own. I still innately came back to the decision of when I was like sitting with myself and I had to sit and I had to be like, okay, am I feeling absolutely terribly sick, or is this more so like a type of sore throat that I get when I'm stressed before I go somewhere? And to know that, I had to check in with myself. So I had to sit down for a minute. I had to really sit with it, see what I was feeling, recognize it, and then I was able to make a decision. And this is stuff that takes so much time and so much practice, and you will get there. It will happen. Even though I've been very innately intuitive, there is so much that I was just distracting myself, deciding and reassurance seeking and listening to those fear stories. So there will come a day when you realize that, oh, I'm actually not really doing that anymore, or I'm actually being really consistent with it. So that's the other key thing. Consistency is key in so many aspects of life. Consistency is what gets you those results. And you don't have to do it perfect every single time. Just keep showing up and keep consistently doing it. So, and again, make it easy on yourself. Don't take like a big type of thing where you're like, I am going to be so intuitive. I am going to channel all these things. I'm going to follow my intuition every single moment of the day, especially if you're not fully used to that, right? Like it's going to take a little bit of time, baby steps to get there. So start being consistent in moments that you know that are already happening in your daily life. Start there, and then you can slowly implement different practices to be able to bring this into you and to really be able to feel like I have that autonomy, I have that authority. And at the end of the day, this is your life. This is your life path. This is everything that is happening for you. So why not do it in a sense that you feel empowered and you are doing it in the path of least resistance. You're doing this in the sense that I know this is in alignment with me and I trust it, and my intuition always knows what's on the other side. And that was the other thing too I was always getting caught up with the unknown, which I still do to this day. I always forget that the unknown is where all possibilities lie. I will say it again. The unknown is where all possibilities lie. The unknown is our friend because the unknown has so much excitement and so many cool things to come through. Like, let yourself be surprised. Let yourself have those little whimsical, magical moments when you're so excited that something has come through and you're like, I could have never predicted this. I could have never been able to be more open and expansive to all these opportunities because I was so focused on the fear and I was so scared and I was so just in a very narrow-minded. And once you start to ease out of that lens and ease out and ease out and ease out, that's when you know, you guys, there is so much abundance out there and there's so many opportunities out there that are just waiting for you. There are people that you haven't met yet. There are opportunities. There are places. There is so much abundance that is out there just waiting for you. Like, it is out there. And listen, you don't have to jump headfirst into something. You can do little steps to get there. But just know that there's so much excitement on the other side, and there might be a time when you might be in the waiting period, which the waiting period is one of the toughest parts. When you get to that place, when you've really honored your intuition, when you started to listen to yourself, and you're like, okay, I'm going to make this decision. And I'm talking about more of like the bigger decisions or the decisions that are a little bit more scary on paper, right? There will inevitably sometimes be an in-between phase. And that is also so crucial for when you just keep following your intuition, just keep trusting. Because if you keep listening to that fear, then that is going to sometimes a little bit detour you off course. Which again, as I said earlier, you're always on the right path at the right time. So whatever decision you make, you're always going to end up where you need to go. But if you listen to your intuition, think of that as like the path of least resistance. That is the path that is going to feel so exciting and so magnetic, and just being able to call all these opportunities into you, right? So you're always going to end up where you're going to end up, right? Like, even if you decide to make that decision, you might just take a little bit of a detour to get to where you were innately going to go. But if you keep listening to your intuition, that is when things just feel like, it feels like a breath of fresh air. When sometimes when you're in that fear mind of like, oh my gosh, I'm making this decision because I'm so scared. I'm so fearful. I can't see the other side. I'm just going to make this decision because it's easier in this moment. Sometimes the right decisions aren't always the easy ones. And sometimes those decisions can feel so heavy and they can feel so scary. But when you decide that you know innately within you that this is the right decision for you and this is in the path of where you need to go, there might be a little bit of a waiting period. So there might be that time when you're in that in-between, when you're feeling, I just said no to what's not, and I'm waiting for what's coming next. Know that that is when everything exists. That is when every single opportunity is happening. And one key thing that I've been doing, so instead of listening to that fear, and I have definitely been going down mind tracks of, what if this happens? What if that happens? And really getting into like mental math and really focusing on all the things that could go wrong. On the flip side, think of everything that can go right and get excited. Like, physically try to get excited. And a little thing that I've been doing lately that's been helping me is I have been dancing again. And it's something that I feel like we did so much as a kid. And I have been turning on music on things that I want to call in. and things that I want to bring into my life. And I physically dance to it because I feel like when you actually like get to feel and move your body, that is when you can actually feel that so much more, instead of sometimes when I'm like just laying down trying to like bring this in, or I'm trying to like force myself to think about it. Sometimes I have to physically move my body to know, okay, this is what I want to call in. This is the type of energy that I want to embody, right? And so I've been doing that. It's been honestly something I've been looking forward to so much every single day. It's just like 5-10 minutes or however long you have. Just take that moment to really put on a song that gets you so energized, or a song that you feel called to, or a song that you just feel like, I just want to strut around my apartment and just dance. The song that I've been listening to a lot lately is House Tour by Sabrina Carpenter. I'm on my like Sabrina era. I would dabble a little bit into Sabrina, but all of a sudden lately I'm just like feeling like I'm in more of that like feminine energy of like receiving. And I'm like, I just want to just like be fun and girly. And who knows, for some reason, intuitively, that song was coming to me, and that song was something I was just like, I just really want to listen to this. So that's become my little like dancing manifestation song that I've been putting on. And I just get so energized when I listen to it. So anything that is really energizing you, listen to it. That is also your intuition telling you there's something in this song that I'm resonating with. And there's something to pay attention to, or to really just sit with and to enjoy it and to have fun. Because there's also so much that goes into fear of the terms of like, we're so addicted to struggling. We're so addicted to staying in the fear. And the fear can be so convincing, right? It can tell you so many stories. It can tell you all day what is going to go wrong. It's going to tell you what is going to happen. And I think I saw a statistic somewhere, I forget which, maybe I was reading the book, The Happiness Trap, which I highly recommend. It's by Russ Harris. He also goes a little bit deeper into navigating some of those thoughts that come into our mind. But in there, I think he said that 80% of our thoughts are negative a day. So we're already kind of like in a battle, right? Every single day, so to speak, in our minds of like knowing that we might be predisposed to having more of a negative skewed mind. More and more you turn down the volume on those thoughts, the more that the other thoughts will ramp up. And those are when you know that you are following in the right path. That is how you know I'm not checking into that fear as much. I'm not engaging with those thoughts. And for me, when I notice I'm really engaging in those thoughts, so that is when, let's say, for example, I have the thought of, I could fail at this. And when I grab onto that thought, I could then start to really go into that story of that thought. So then I'm like, okay, if I could fail, then this could go wrong. What if no one shows up to my gathering? What if people laugh at me? What if this was a big mistake? What if I mess this up in my business, right? So you can start to see the mental track that starts happening. So to interrupt that, stop engaging with the thought, because once you start thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking, it gets so exhausting. So when that thought, the first thing, and if you've already been thinking about that thought for a while, that's okay. At any time, you can just drop that thought. Like literally, any moment you can just be like, I don't need to think about this anymore. Like, how freeing is that? You don't have to sit there and try to solve a thought. You don't have to sit there and try to like solve the fear to figure out the fear. Like, no, you don't have to. It's just a protective part that's coming in for you. And you can just say to those thoughts, if you have like a negative one coming through, you can say, I recognize I'm having a fearful thought. I'm not going to engage with it, but I see you. Thank you, mind. Thank you, fear, for alerting me. And so that is when you don't engage with it. You just sit with it. You don't even start to engage. So how that looks, you just kind of stop thinking about the thought. So when that thought comes in, I just say, okay, I notice I'm having that. And then you just reconnect with what you're doing. So reconnect if you're in the middle of work, if you're cleaning, anything that you're doing, reconnect with it. I know for me, when I'm in a very anxious state, it helps me to physically do stuff with my hands. So I have to like clean or like physically go and like do an activity where I'm using my hands, because that helps me get back into my body and re-engage with what I'm doing. Another idea, if you are in a moment where you can't really necessarily do that, think there's two different analogies that I like to think about. One my therapist gave me. So you can think of leaves on a stream. So you can put that thought on a leaf and then just let it float down the stream. And you could just imagine it, visualize it going down the stream. You can just imagine it floating away. Like, I can just let it go on its own time. Another one is I like to think of clouds too. So I can think of like, that you're just up in the sky. And I just like to think of like placing a thought on a cloud and then just letting it float by. So it can take a lot of time, and don't be hard on yourself if it takes a little bit more practice to get to it. You will get to there. You will get to it. And listen, fear is also within us, right? Because there are times where there is, in that sense, where we have to get into that fear, that survival mode, where we might have to really be protective if we're in like a true emergency, or if we are in a state where we really need to be more alert and to be in that fight or flight. And so it's not necessarily bad. Like, there's nothing good or bad. It's more what is feeling true for me and what is feeling like this is supporting me for myself and for my growth. So to summarize everything, because I know I went on a lot of different tangents, but I just want to let you guys know that, there's so much stories and so much rhetoric around fear, and realize that if fear is holding you back, you don't have to listen to it. You don't have to engage. You don't have to believe it. You don't have to follow it. Fear is just there to show you another perspective. It is just there to protect you. It is just showing you a potential outcome. But when you're in the unknown, there's a million different outcomes. So that is just showing you one outcome out of a million that could go and happen that way. And your intuition will always guide you in the right path. Your intuition is always there to help innately guide you for the next step. So just start, again, taking it in little baby steps. Start implementing it a little bit in your daily life. Start using it in different scenarios. Start to see how your intuition talks to you. Does my intuition come to me in an inner knowing? Do I have to feel it? Do I have to hear it? Do I need to see it? Like, however it looks for you, start to really get familiar with it. Because once you strengthen that, then your intuition is going to just keep guiding you, and just trusting that is going to work out, because it will. Spoiler alert, it always works out. Any single time, it will always work out and how it's meant to and where you're meant to go, because things are always unfolding at exactly the right time. So this is just my little message to not let fear stop you. It's just here to show you where maybe you might be holding back in some areas of your life. It's here to show you when things might be feeling a little bit scary, when whatever fear is meant to show you, just know that there's always another side to that. There is always another side, and then you will get to the other side. So this is just a little bit of a chat today to be able to tap into both of those. And I also have guided audios, and I do have one about intuition. So I have one that is really being able to tap into your intuition, and I walk you through kind of like a guided meditation of really being able to access that, learning how that looks for you. And I am sending all of you so much love, and I'm sending your intuition all the guidance that it needs. And I'm sending you guys so much abundance, because there's so much abundance on the other side of fear. Okay, so we will talk later. Bye, guys.